just before graduation, I was drafted by the Lakers. I had never been out to the Lakers. They never gave me a physical. It's not like it is today where you have all of this fanfare, you're on television, you get called up as you get drafted. As I said, I was walking to class and Josh Rosenfeld, who's a friend of mine, a student, came up to me and said, "Kermit, you just got drafted by the Lakers." And I said, "Well, that's nice, that's good." I went on to class. So I heard from my agent. It was a lot of agents that wanted to be my representatives, but I hate to be honest with you, I didn't trust hardly any of them. I mean, and they were in it because they wanted to give me money before the draft, and well, we'll get the money back, we'll lend you money. But even though I was very naive, I knew that if I took money, they probably would steal probably twice as much from me later on. So I chose Donald Dell, who I thought was the most reputable agent at that time, and he had other guys that I knew. So I said, I'm gonna go with Donald Dell. So after being drafted by the Lakers, I didn't know, we didn't sign my contract with the Lakers till probably 3 months later. And I was at Red Auerbach's basketball camp, and Red Auerbach told me I needed to fly to LA to sign a contract. So I got on a plane and flew out to LA. Well, after signing the contract from LA wanted me to come out there a couple of weeks early before the season started. So I flew out to LA. I finally had a checkbook with some money in it, but I was only 21 years old. So I landed. The assistant coach, John Barnhill, picked me up at the airport. He took me to a hotel and said, "I'll see you in a couple of weeks." I said, "See you in a couple of weeks." I had never been to LA before. That's a big city. I tried to go rent a car. They weren't going to let me rent a car because I wasn't 25 years old. But then they found out who I was and they said, "Okay, we can rent him a car." So here I am in a city, a big LA city, and I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. So what I did, I just got in a car and started driving straight down certain streets, Sepulveda, other big streets, and just kept going straight. And as I went straight, then I wouldn't get lost and I could always find my way back. But then after a couple of days, I was bored out of my mind. I was trying to find a gym. So I've heard about Gold's Gym in Venice Beach. And I said, let me try to find this gym so I have some place to work out. So I went down to Venice Beach and I went down. All the best bodybuilders in the world were in that gym. Very cramped little gym. It's nothing like it is now. And there weren't that many gyms in the whole city, really, to be honest with you, because fitness wasn't really big then at that time. I go in there and I see Arnold Schwarzenegger, I see all these other guys. But see, in those days, Arnold hadn't made any movies yet, so you just knew him as a bodybuilder. But I would go in there, and after a couple of weeks, I knew I had to stay in shape. A guy named, who was Mr. Universe, Robbie Robinson, came up to me and said, "Well, I see you coming here all the time, and you're doing the same body part every single day." I said, "Well, I'm not supposed to do that?" He says, "No, you're supposed to do it a couple of times a week, and you're supposed to alter the different body parts. Your legs one day, chest one day, shoulders one day, arms the next day." I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, I'll work with you." So he started working with me and really started showing me what I was supposed to do in the weightlifting department. Well, then the next thing I wanted to do, I wanted to go out there and find a gym to work out at, so play basketball. So I went to Loyola Marymount, and I went in there and I started playing. A lot of the Lakers were there that were coming out for the team, and I just learned to play, learned the guys, and it was some pretty good games there. So when the season started, though, they told me, and because Pete Newell was the general manager, he's the one that drafted me, I was kind of told they really didn't need me right away. They had just gone to the championship the year before, and they lost. I can't remember who they lost to, probably the Knicks or somebody like that. And they didn't really need me because they had a lot of good players on the team, and Wilt was still on the team officially to that point. Got to training camp, and I'm used to really working hard in practice in college. You really had to work very, very hard. Now in pros, because the guys were older, some of the guys were 33, 34, 35, and I was 21. I was just ready to run and really do everything I needed to do to get in good shape. But they didn't really work that hard. But I didn't want to act like I'm 100% and they're not working hard, so I just did the jogging and stuff along with them. But at that time, I was getting tendinitis in my knee. And because I hadn't been working out every single day as I had done in the past. And when I used to do that, I used to have no pains anywhere in my body. But then what happened, probably the second or third preseason game, I hurt my back. I was trying to do, I think I was trying to do a certain play, and I got blindsided and I fell on my back and my back was hurt. But I had never been hurt before, so I thought that, well, the next day it'll be okay. The day after that, it'll be okay. So I kept practicing. And then what happened is, if I had to stop practicing, and if I had gone and just rested, it would have been okay for the rest of my career. But I kept playing on a bad back, and I had to be hospitalized and put in traction, so I was able to basically to keep playing. But my first couple of years, I didn't play at all. I mean played. Played 10, 15 minutes. If we were winning by 20 points, I was playing. If we were losing by 20 points, I was put in a game. So we called ourselves the F Troop at that time, which is a comical thing, saying, you know, only time we would go in a game if we were winning big or losing big. Well, I kept going up to Pete Newell's office, who was the general manager at the time, and I need somebody to work with me, because I would ask the assistant coaches, can you please come down and work with me after practice and help me get off this bench? But the coaches, John Barnhill and the head coach, Bill Sharman, they were point guards as players, so they really weren't in a position to really know how to help me. So I kept going up to Pete Newell's office, because I had read that what a great coach he had been at Cal Berkeley. He had won a national championship. He had coached the Olympic team, and he was a great, great coach. He says, Kermit, I can't come down there and help you because it'll make the coaches look I'm upstaging them, and they don't know what they're doing. So for the first 3 years or so, basically what I did, I was just sitting there just trying to get some playing time. Now the third year, Pete Newell quit as a general manager, because I used to go up into his office and sit at his office, keep begging him to come and work with me, and he just wouldn't come out the office because he just purposely wasn't going to help me. But now that he had retired, he says, Kermit, okay, I'll work with you. And if you listen to me, you'll become a starter for the rest of your career. So I had to pick him up at 7 o'clock every morning. We would go to Loyola Marymount, and he would work on my fundamentals with me. Because I was used to playing the center position, now I had to play the forward position. And he was showing me. And the difference is, the center position, your back is to the basket back then. And in the forward position, you're away from the basket and you're facing the bucket. So he had to show me all the footwork and all the fundamentals that are needed. And he treated me, he trained me so hard, like, let me say, like, I used to call it like trying out for the Navy SEALs. It was so hard that I would go to bed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And people say, why are you going to bed so early? I said, I am so tired. And I know I have to get up and go back to that pain again the next day. With Pete Newell working with me, he promised me, and I told you we worked so hard. We had a new coach, Jerry West, who used to be my teammate. Now he became the head coach. And because when I was his teammate, I wasn't playing a lot, he still saw me as a player that I was the first 3 years. But he knew that I had been working with Pete Newell, and he did give me an opportunity to play a little bit more. So what happened during the preseason, a couple of guys got hurt, and I got an opportunity to play, but then I twisted my ankle really bad. Well, I knew that regardless if my ankle was twisted or not very badly, I had to play, or I wasn't ever going to get off this bench. So I had them tape my ankle up like a cast, and I just played injured and gave 100%. But he saw the improvement in me, and with having Kareem on the team, well, we just had a great team, and we really did. We did end up having the best record in the NBA that year. I don't know what the record was, but it was nobody better. But what happened during the season, my tendonitis in my knee was really hurting me. And before a game, we were playing against the Denver Nuggets, and we both had probably a tied record. And we wanted to go into the All-Star break, which means about 60th game of the season, with probably about having the best record. But my knee was hurt, so at halftime I talked to the Dr. Curlin. I said, my knee is killing me. He says, we'll just put ice on it, but it'll be okay. It's just tendonitis, and it won't get any worse. You just have to deal with the pain. So what happened, I went out there in the second half, I jumped for a ball, and my knee popped. My patella tendon popped, and my kneecap was on the side of my knee. There's a big hole where your kneecap is supposed to be, and I knew I was injured very badly. So what I had to do, I went for the operation, and then I started rehabilitating the leg. And I was very disappointed because we got beat in the playoffs in I think the second round that year. And got beat by Portland Trailblazers, who finally won the national championship that year. The NBA championship, excuse me. But we had beaten them 3 out of 3 during the season. And I was injured, and our point guard, who was Lucius Allen, who played for UCLA, our starting point guard, had broke his toe, so he didn't play. So two of us as integral parts of the team were no longer there, and we got beat by Portland, which was a great team anyway, so you just have to give them credit for that. Well, working with Pete Newell, he even worked me harder during the summer, getting me ready for the next year. And that year, what came about was a situation where it changed my career, my life forever, really. Well, in 1977, the Lakers wanted me to be in the magazine on Sports Illustrated as one of the enforcers. I think it was like 8 of us. And one of the enforcers basically is a player that they think was the most aggressive on the team, that was maybe more of a protector for the superstar on the team. Because back in those days, people did try to hurt each other in the NBA. And so by having me, they figured that other people from other teams wouldn't try that against Kareem or other stars that we had. But that caused a lot of problems, because when I went into Buffalo, probably 1977, 1976, I don't remember what year it was, we were playing against the Buffalo Braves, and I got in an altercation with John Shoemate, pretty good player, I think he was Rookie of the Year, and he went to Notre Dame. So I got in an altercation with him. As we were in that altercation, one of his teammates named Fred Foster came and hit me from behind in the back of the head. And then when he was going away, another one of his players, Don Adams, hit me. They were trying, so they all three were jumping on me, and it was a big fight became, and nobody on my team came to help me. So when the situation came about later on with the Houston Rockets, you could understand what I thought when I saw a person running at me. What you're looking at is when I was playing with the Lakers and we were playing against the Houston Rockets. We were fighting for a rebound, myself, Kevin Kunert, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I turned around to try to catch up to the play, and I was elbowed by Kevin Kunert, and then he turned around and hit me in the face. Now then, as I turn, as Kareem breaks up the fight, I see Rudy running at me, and I turned and threw a punch. And that changed my life forever. What you didn't see in this video, because back then they didn't have the camera angles everywhere. Kareem, myself, and Kevin Kunert were fighting for a rebound. I think Kevin Kunert got the rebound. He threw it to the point guard, John Lucas, and he starts going down the court. Now we as big men have to catch up to the play. So I hooked my arm around Kevin Kunert's waist to try to propel myself to catch up to the play. As I'm doing this, he throws an elbow and hits me right in the face, and I really thought it was an accident. So when he turned around, he hit me in the face with a punch. So I knew then it wasn't an accident. So we got into a fight. And then Kareem was breaking it up. And then I see everybody running back toward me from the other team and from my team. I see Rudy Tomjanovich running at me from the side, and I really don't know who he is. He's a great guy now. I know we're friends now, but I felt threatened. It sounds like what happens with the police department nowadays. And I turned and I threw a punch. And that changed my life forever, because I was suspended, fined, and almost thrown out the league. So I'm walking down through the tunnel, and Rudy gets up and he yells at me, "Why did you hit me?" And I said to him, "You should ask your teammate, Kevin Kunert, for elbowing me and hit me in the face." Well, I went home. I got in my car and went home. I knew I was in trouble, not because of the situation with throwing the punch, but I just knew what they had done with Kareem before. When Kareem had been elbowed by Ken Benson with Milwaukee in the first game of the season, which was a year before that, and he was thrown out. No, not only was he thrown out, he was fined, but he broke his hand. So even if he was suspended, we don't know what his suspension would have been. But I knew honestly by being black and Rudy Tomjanovich being white, I knew there was going to be some problems there. After leaving the commissioner's office and not apologizing like he wanted me to do, I thought I was out the league for good, really. About a week or so later, basically what happened, I get a call from my agent, and they say I am traded to the Boston Celtics. Okay, but I can't go because I'm still on suspension. Now, you have to understand that going to the Boston Celtics, Red Auerbach, it was the one running the organization. It was a great coach. And I met him, first of all, when I was like 18 years old, because his daughter had gone to college with us. Her name was Randy Arbeck. And one day we had to take her home. She needed a ride home. And I didn't know her dad was the famous Red Arbeck. So we take her home, drop her off, and I walk into her house and I see all these trophies from Boston Celtics. I said, oh my God. I said, who is your father? She said, my father is Red Arbeck. I said, Red Arbeck? Let me get out of here. As I try to walk out the door, he walks in the door and says, sit down, son, I want to talk to you. One of the most famous coaches ever. I think he won 10 championships in the NBA as coach. So we became friends. He says, young man, are you a pretty good ball player? I said, I think I'm okay. I was a freshman at the time. He says, I'm going to keep an eye on you then. So I started going to his camp and everything else like that. So when I got in trouble, the two guys that saved me and got me back in the league, because they were trying to throw me out the league, was Red Arbeck and Pete Newell, which were two very powerful people. And so I was traded, but I couldn't go to the Boston Celtics. Then after a while, they said, okay, you can go, you can join the team. Now I flew into Boston, and it was a blizzard. That was a year in a horrendous winter. And so I was in a hotel. First of all, Red Arbeck wanted me to say, you can stay in my condominium there. I said, no, thank you. Now, he's a guy who was the president of the team of Boston Celtics, who I've known for quite a few years, but I was not going to stay in his condominium. I said, no, just get me a room in a hotel. So he got me a room in a Prudential Center in Boston. It was called the Sheraton. Not a nice looking hotel, especially the room I was in was not a nice looking room, but it was 29 flights of stairs. And even though they had an elevator for everybody else, I looked at it with my 20-pound weight vest as a way of getting into shape. So the first few games were canceled because of the bad weather. And so I started running the stairs 5 times in the morning and 5 times at night, taking the elevator down. And it was miserable. I didn't want to go to bed. I didn't want to wake up because I knew what I had to do, plus go to practice. But the practices weren't very hard because a lot of the guys were 35, 34, older, and they needed more of the rest of their legs than anything else. So running the steps, all the janitors and all the people in the thing, they loved me being in the hotel. And after games, later on, I'll tell you that when I would come back after games, they would save food for me in the restaurant. And when they were cleaning up the kitchens and stuff, they wanted me to basically come and tell them about the game that I played in. So they always, and I was always giving them tickets to the games, the ones that weren't working that night. But my first game was against Boston. I was so nervous again because all of a sudden everybody booed me. I had never heard such loud boos in my life. We're in the Bay Area, and I say to the coach, Sat Sanders, I said, Sats, well, how long do you think I'm going to play? He said, oh, I'll put you in about 10, 15 minutes. I said to myself, well, I can do 10 to 15 minutes. There'd be no problem. I can play that long, even though I hadn't played a game for over 3 months. Well, what happened, he puts me in a game, and he says, well, you were playing so well, he left me in, and we won the game, and I think he left me in for 25 or 30 minutes. I didn't stop sweating for 3 hours after the game. I was so tired because I wasn't used to playing. And but we won, and they were happy. I got to start knowing the players on the team. But every city I would go into, I would have security would tell me, do not order room service. Do not let people know your name because they might try to poison you in room service. Be careful. Don't shake people's hands you don't know after the game. You don't know if they're just trying to hurt you or whatever. So it was kind of a sticky situation. But then the next game I went into LA Lakers. That's a team that just let me go. And the second game, I remember that game, I had to go against Adrian Dantley, a friend of mine who is a Hall of Famer now. And I wasn't in the kind of shape to play a great game. I wanted to play well, but all the different newscasts and news people wanted to talk to me before the game. And I was just tired. I was worn out emotionally. In that game, we got beat. I still played well, but I didn't play well enough to do anything with a guy named Adrian Dantley. I think I had like 12 points and 12 rebounds, and I just didn't have the energy because I hadn't built up the stamina to play that long. But I did really well in Boston. I think I averaged about 12 points and 10 rebounds in Boston, which for me, that was really good. I love the teammates. 4 of my teammates from that team are Hall of Famers. JoJo White, Havlicek, Cowens, and Dave Bing. So I played in one of the most spectacular situations I've ever been in, or one game I enjoyed the most was Havlicek's final game. So I played in his final game, I played in Jerry West's final game, I played in Dave Bing's final game. So 3 Hall of Famers I played in their final game as a teammate. So I enjoyed that point.